hey, I think it's happening.
Let's go.
This is great. My microphone is on.
We got 2 mics now.
My GERDS is acting up.
What does that mean?
It's acid reflux, but real bad.
GERDS?
Yeah, it makes me sound like it makes me growl. You heard it.
Wait, why do they call it GERDS?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
The doctor called it GERDS?
Yeah, it's what it's called. It's a disease or something.
What kind of down-home country doctor? Hey, look,
It's really called that.
I'm sorry, son. It looks like you got the GERDS.
Yeah, and that's what I have.
You gotta hit yourself across the face with a fish and pray to Jesus 3 times. You're gonna be all healed up.
Did you go to the same school as me?
Yeah. I did some research. I talked to a bunch of people from your school.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out what my topics are.
They had a lot.
I wrote them down in this thing that says next Dan.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
The podcast is just Dan too.
Right. We named the podcast.
Yeah.
We named it Basket of Cat.
BOC.
BOC.
BOC, baby.
That sounds like a place in Orange County.
Yeah, I just got back from the BOC. That's where you would have like either the worst show of all time or the best show of your life.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a grungy underground show for sure.
I'll say this. The OC has a really bad rap, and I actually really like it.
I like the OC too.
The OC is great.
Yeah, they had a lot of good TV shows.
The great TV shows. You go there, everybody, sure, parts of Huntington Beach get a little crazy, right? No doubt. It is.
I want to be really honest with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're mentioning things in California, and I lived through a pandemic, so I only know know where my home is, and I know nothing else about California. People are like the Valley, and I'm like, that could be anywhere to me.
Right. I lived through the scam-demic, so I was all out and about. No, but I've just been here longer than you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter, really. I'm not good at directions like that. I'm really good at getting around, but you can't ask me where anything is, because I'll give you directions like I'm Dora the Explorer. I'll be like, around that tree, over that bridge, by the McDonald's. Like, that's how I give directions.
Now, you're saying directions, but what we're talking about is just knowing that certain places exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I give directions. And when people are like, what street is it on? I'm just like, it's by the Walmart. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. And in California, you people are obsessed with knowing both. I act as if you're from here. But people in California are obsessed with knowing both streets. Well, but a building is not on both streets. The address is only on one street.
Okay, so LA is obsessed with that because LA is on a grid system.
I know, I've heard.
It's much more like conducive to knowing cross streets. However, what really helps me with that, because I'm also not good with directions that well, riding my bike has really helped with that. Because when you're on your bike, you're not like just looking, you're not texting the whole time. You're looking up, you're getting hit by cars. Yeah, you're getting stuff thrown at you. So like you're more aware of your surroundings, which is nice.
I'm not into people on bicycles, I gotta be honest.
Oh, this is a good topic.
I just think that they're in the way. There should be a different street for them.
I don't
understand when did we start deciding you can ride a bike in the road instead of on the sidewalk? Doesn't it seem like a much more of a sidewalk activity?
Okay, well, that's a very interesting thing. Let me tell you what happens when you ride on the sidewalk. Is large four-armed Armenian men will push you off the sidewalk.
You know why? Because you're in everyone's way. That's what I've gathered from this. People on bikes are in everyone's way. Walking, driving.
Okay, here's what I'm doing. I'm saving the environment, number one, obviously. Number two, I'm taking a car off the road. So you know how like traffic, well, you don't leave your apartment much, so it's not really, it doesn't affect you.
I know places around here.
From time to time. But it takes a car off the road. The issue and why people, because I've heard a lot of complaints about people on bikes. And listen, I get it. It's fun. It's fun to make fun of a marginalized group. I understand.
Marginalized
everybody
group.
Bike riders in Los Angeles, marginalized group. Okay, we're in danger. We don't put anyone in danger. If you get hit with a bicycle and you get injured, that's on you. That's not on me. That's on you. That's because you're weak of spirit, okay? You're driving a car, you hit somebody, that's hospital at least. So you're taking something dangerous off the road, you're being humble, because you don't need to be in a giant kill machine all the time. You can just be on your little bike. That's how I am. People will be like, oh, bikes are in the way, bikes are annoying, blah, blah, blah. I understand, but the issue is we don't have dedicated bike lanes in Los Angeles, because every time they try to add them, people go to city council meetings and go, well, LA, we're a car city. LA is a car city. And it's like, is it? Because it takes me fucking 40 minutes to go 2 miles anytime from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is it a car city?
Weak of spirit.
You can get there faster?
Yeah, it's so stupid. The point is, it's annoying. And also, if you hit someone on a bike, it's automatically your fault, even if they're weaving in and out of traffic, like psychos.
Why is that your fault? What'd you say?
Because they're gonna be like, you were in a car, you should have been checking on your blind spot.
You should.
And it's like, you shouldn't have been on a tiny little, on a toy. You should have been on a toy in the road. You're riding a toy.
I like my toy.
That's like if I was in one of those little Jeeps that kids drive, and I was like, stop it, I have a right of way. It's my privilege.
I would, first of all...
Go to the park. Like a bike is a toy.
I would love if you drove around in one of those little Jeeps.
Me too,
that would
honestly.
be fucking so cute. Are you kidding
so
me?
obsessed.
Oh my god. Everyone would be
We're talking
obsessed.
about getting somewhere in a long time.
That would be...
oof.
No, we could like soup it up for you. We'd find a way.
Like a go-kart.
We'll get Elon on that.
Let me get road legal.
Yeah. That would be awesome. No, I get really upset with people who dislike cycling because... So, I lived...
Not really upset.
I lived in Sweden for a few months, right? So I'm kind of an aristocrat. I'm kind of a man of many nations.
Were you the Mayflower Queen?
What do you mean? What's that?
You never seen Midsummer?
No.
What?
No, explain to the folks what the Mayflower Queen is.
Everyone knows what the Mayflower Queen is. She gets to kill her boyfriend.
Oh, she gets to kill her boyfriend?
I mean, she had the option. She took it.
She took the option.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, who wouldn't take the option?
I mean, he sucked.
Yeah, he rode a bike around, so she
Worse,
gotta go.
honestly.
No, so they fucking have such a good system there where they make bike lanes really easy for people. And when you make bike lanes easy, like if they did that in LA, so much more of LA is bikeable than people think because they make it a death-defying feat to bike more than a mile because cars are crazy. They have this weird shit called a Class 3 bike lane. So a Class 2 bike lane is when you have a line and then it's literally its own little lane. You have like the car lanes and then you have a white line and then separated into a bike lane. That's a Class 2 bike lane. Mm-hmm. Class 1 bike lane. Now you're getting into luxury territory.
I'm getting into it.
That's a bike lane that is completely separate from the road. So... And
good. That's how they should be.
That's how they should be. I am with you completely. Downtown, they have some Class 1 bike lanes. In Sweden, fucking every bike lane is a Class 1 bike lane. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Here, they have what's called a fucking class...
But biking makes sense in Sweden. They're so happy and jolly, and they're like,
right.
Hey, Sweden. Like, you know, like they're very thrilled to be on a bike. Like, that makes sense. Like, no, this isn't a bike place.
Here, we're like, we got BMWs, motherfucker.
Yeah, well, nowhere. In America, we're just not... No, biking is like a thing you do, like, in your little square where you live, around a cul-de-sac.
You really do see it as a toy. You can go like 25, 30 miles an hour in a bike.
Not me.
That's why
you know. You can also. Did you know you can be arrested for being drunk on a bike because there's a seat, but not on a Lime scooter because there's no seat? It's so fucked up.
I fucking hate that. Yeah, that also pisses me off. Because again,
you love to drive your bike drunk.
I never. First of all, I never get drunk. I'm a man of piety. Okay. But okay, so let me keep going with the bike lane because this is very important. People are really into bike lanes.
Non-drunk biker.
People really want to know about bike lanes, so let me get into it. So a Class 3 bike lane is why everyone is fucking annoyed by bikers. Okay, it's not to say that we shouldn't have Class 3 bike lanes. It's that we should have Class 2 and 1 bike lanes and get rid of Class 3 bike lanes. A Class 3 bike lane is an incredibly vague proposal, basically, where they put a fucking spray painted bicycle on the road and they go.
Because that's if someone died. That's a chalk.
Yeah. That's the bike, and then like 5 miles down, it's the fucking person who got sprayed by a Mack truck.
That's called foreshadowing, Dan.
Yeah. So they go, a bike, if it so chooses, can take the entire lane. That is what a Class 3 bike... No one knows this. So if you do take the whole lane, you're going to get fucking like sideswiped by a Kia, obviously. But... a Class 3 bike lane means legally, as a cyclist, you can take the whole lane. Obviously, no one's going to do that because they're not crazy and you can't bike 40 miles an hour. But that's why everybody thinks bicycles are annoying because you have Class 3 bike lanes instead of Class 2 and Class 1. So they'll take the entire lane and people will be like, oh, fuck this asshole. It's like, no, he's just trying to stay safe. He got a DUI. You
want to be really safe?
What?
Walking.
No. Fuck it, it's crazy talk. Okay, listen.
There's a lot of things that I don't want. I don't like farmers markets where everybody can cross the road whenever they want.
I'm kind of with you on that one.
Like this is honestly, this is my real take on this.
Go on.
Don't ever be in my way. That's what I really want to say. Is just get away from me and stay out of the way.
So if you're on foot and you're crossing the street, and you never, but let's just say by.
Well, maybe nowadays.
Yeah. By you now that you're getting fit.
Yeah, so fit.
Now, and there's cars, are you then angry at... Because I find myself, whatever whatever I'm doing...
I just told you don't ever be in my way.
Whatever I'm doing, fuck you if you're doing it.
If I'm in a car, I'm like, I'll hit you, bitch. And if I'm out of a car, I'm like, hit me, bitch. That's very me.
Boston is where I lived for a while. Boston is very strong, okay? But Boston is like the patron city of crossing the street and staring the car down as you do it. It's so funny.
Do you know what I hate? When someone tries to cross the street and then be polite about it and they do this. Or they're like, sorry, I'm just going by real quick. Like, get out, just go!
Why do they jog with such little steps when they do that?
It's because you don't actually want to go any faster.
It's
you just want
never
people to know that you feel bad about it.
I do a full sprint. I'm like, you don't even need to slow it down for me.
Oh, I just feel, if I have to cross the street and there's cars parked, I am, like, waiting at the red light, I immediately feel, like, so much anxiety. Like, how dare I have to cross this street?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe that I need to get to the other side of this. What am I, a chicken?
No, I'll say this, and this is why I think everybody in their own way is a piece of shit, because when I'm biking, I'm very much like, fuck these cars. But then when I'm in a car and there's even one bike that takes up the whole lane, I'm immediately like, I'm gonna fucking put a stick in your back tire and blow this thing out. How dare you?
I thought about that.
Oh yeah, that's the old school way. Fucking jam a stick in there.
I'm gonna have to drive and hang out the window though. And
you could get there. Put it on cruise control.
What about guys that hang out windows? Scrubs. This is not even the topic. So
no,
did you have a topic? What was my topic?
I have a topic, but I think yours might be better to start with. Mine has a little getting into.
I wanted to ask you about, we kind of briefly talked about this, but I think it's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I read, you have to read it somewhere or you don't know.
Sure.
That, women don't have fetishes. They just mimic men's fetishes. So technically only men have fetishes and women are just playing it into it.
First of all, what doctor? What doctor is doing this study?
I just had to do research into it.
No, but I'm sure someone did.
I could have thought on a fortune cookie and been like, sounds true.
Yeah. It was just some dude who's like, my wife, there's no way she loves feet as much as me.
Yeah,
how do we fucking...
Granted, that does make a lot of sense, because you think about, like, the concept of, like, say we all lived in tribes, you needed a husband to survive or whatever, and we're back in those days, like, you would kind of adapt, like... There's a lot of things I think women do they don't actually want to do for men. So, like, I do understand that concept of being like, do you really love bukkake? Or, like, is that a joke?
Well,
like...
is it a joke?
Because it does feel like a joke a little bit.
I don't know if I would say joke. But, okay.
They look funny at the end.
So here's the very limited understanding I have of this, is that book that was written called Sex at Dawn, which, you know, I think was kind of disputed in the anthropology community. But what it basically said is they've done studies with mammals, and what tends to be, like, the norm is male mammals tend to fix their sexual proclivities early, and then stick with that for the rest of their lives. Like, and then women mammals, what they've found is, like, they can sort of, like, if they introduce a different, you know, like if you have goats and sheep and they get used to fucking sheep, and then you put goats in halfway through their lives, they'll figure it out later on. They'll kind of be like, all right, well, I guess we have to. And then male goats will just be like, oh, fuck this. I want some fucking
I'm not gay.
Yeah, I'm not gay. Yeah.
Fuck this sheep.
Yeah, get this. Hey, I need a fucking girl sheep around here.
We're the goat. I think that it's weird that we were doing studies on animals' fetishes to begin with anyways.
Yeah.
What scientist, like, I really want to know about... I don't know why my scientist sounds like that, but he does. He's a villain.
No, do it again.
He said, I want to know what kind of...
He's a pervert villain.
Yeah, what kind of sexy things these sheep are doing. It's very that. Like, what kind of science? Like, I need to study animal stage.
I want to know.
Yeah, gross.
What makes the girls horny?
Yeah. What makes the goats back? You know,
and then they're like, all right, I guess we'll give you the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, we're just giving money out to science. That's another problem. Scientists. Here's an issue I have with scientists.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just tell you. Oh, I'm breaking things. I'm out of frame.
Now, finally, we're a podcast because we're talking shit about scientists. That's what makes you a podcast.
I fucking cannot stand the idea that, like, scientist is the only job you get to go, I think this could be what's happening. I think this is the answer. And then you just get millions of dollars in grants for your idea. What if I went into work and I was like, I think I'll do... Like, I can't... What if you were a lawyer and you're like, I think this will get you off trial. Or a doctor. I think this might... Well, I guess doctors do kind of that. But
yeah, they do. Well,
you don't get to guess at all your other jobs.
Okay, well, it's like trial and error is a completely necessary part of science.
For millions of dollar grants?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it fucking...
We gave Blondie McVampire Magoo billions of dollars so she could make a fake machine.
Who's Blondie McVampire?
What is her name? I don't know. The Dropout, whatever her name was. She made the blood thing.
Oh,
Elizabeth
yeah.
Holmes.
Yeah, Elizabeth Holmes.
Is that her name?
Yeah. But didn't she raise that private, or was that a grant?
Not the point. The point is, scientists are not allowed to guess and get all this money. Because I be guessing about all kinds of things.
You do guess a lot.
And then I don't get no grant.
I see you in the gym, and you're like, I bet this is how you bench press.
Yeah, I'm just like, whatever. Close enough.
Well, okay, so I think the issue is, like, research and development is, like, a very costly, very annoying fucking part of, like, anything. But it is necessary, and you do have to kind of blow a lot of money on it.
Totally necessary.
But the issue, at which I do kind of commiserate with you, is when when you get the outcome of the study, you still go, well, who gives a fuck about this? Like, we don't really need to know. Like when they're
like, we're studying cow farts. Like, why? And they're like, for the ozone layer. I was like, is that the biggest problem? Apparently it is.
Yeah, it's actually huge. Yeah.
But the point is, like, what do you do? Kill the cows? Like, I mean, what do you want me to do?
That is, so when you do like a clinical research paper, there should be a section that is at our level, like you and me, and it's what do we do?
Exactly.
There should be a what do we do section.
Because they're always like, stop using hairspray. It's like, so I get nothing in life?
Yeah.
I get nothing.
The transphobia.
Sorry, Greta.
That is
but I can't do that.
Scientific transphobia.
Because here's this makes me mad too. Because like they're like, because the 1%, the rich people, Richie Rich's Christmas wish, gets to do whatever they want.
Sure, of
and
course.
they're in planes and trains and automobiles, and they're over here wearing shoes made of crocodile balls and all kinds of things. And then I'm supposed to use a paper straw.
Yeah.
Which I will, and I do. But my point is like, shouldn't you suffer more than me? Shouldn't I suffer less?
Yes. Well, so here's the interesting thing. So the 1% thing, you are absolutely. Do you know?
I'm a turtle in a sea of rules.
Do you know you're in a sea of straws, really?
Yeah.
All these straws are trying to get you.
Yeah, that's what I call roll straws.
Do you remember the Taylor Swift thing about the airplane where she was taking like?
Mm-hmm, but she debunked that. You're talking about Kylie Jenner, right?
No, oh, is it Kylie Jenner or is it
Kylie was the one that was taking the 15-minute plane over.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because this other list came out, and I think it listed Taylor Swift as the number one.
Everybody got
private.
a plane.
Yeah, everybody's got a plane. And then everybody was like going after Taylor Swift very hard, which like I make fun of rich people. I don't give a shit.
Me too. But also I will say, like, if you're Taylor Swift or something, like, is she supposed to go to LAX? Like, how is she ever going on the plane?
It's tough.
I do get a little confused. Like, take a bus. You should drive.
It's a middle ground thing, right? It's like, do you have to go in LA? It's like you got the money. Do you need 2 private jets? Can you get away with 1 private jet? Maybe. I don't know.
Honestly, when you're that rich, the sky's off limits. Okay.
Yeah. You're
grounded.
Tunnel. Yeah, tunnel.
We need you. Yeah, you better be you better be driving in a bus. It better be hard. There better be some kind of struggle.
And your face better be on the side of that bus.
Yeah, so we know you're struggling.
But do you know who the number 2 name on that list was?
Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
Oh, okay.
Floyd Mayweather. But nobody said anything about. And do you want to know why? And this is a really interesting thing. Not to go into too much. No, Floyd Mayweather is one of the most famous.
No, I know who he is, but I mean like Gen Z. It's
no, they all know. I mean, he boxed Logan Paul. Like young people.
Oh, that's
know.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, Floyd.
Now I respect you because you boxed the formidable Logan Paul. But
so much violence.
It really speaks to this fact that Taylor Swift, like in her public image, is like relatively positive, right? I mean, she's had like the dating scandals or whatever, but for the most part, it's like but Floyd Mayweather's public image is that he is a piece of shit. Like he has painted himself that way. Like in pre-fights to sell fights and stuff, his whole thing is like, I'm cocky, I'm brash, I'm gonna throw money, I'm gonna like call you an idiot, like all that stuff. So when it came down to actual bad stuff, Taylor got the backlash because her whole life has been like, I'm just here like making music, like I'm a relatively good person. Then it's like, well, fuck you, you're flying private jets. But then Floyd Mayweather, it's like, oh yeah, of course, he doesn't need any punishment for this. It's just such a
flying jets, has 3 or 4 tigers.
He's just as bad, like or probably worse in terms of like whatever footprint. But we all get mad at Taylor because we're like, well, she's the country girl and Floyd's supposed to be doing stuff.
Right.
Like that.
Well, also they act like they're also like, Taylor Swift has so many fans, and do you think they're all going to take private jets all of a sudden? Like, do you think this is like an out like? There are some things that like you have to kind of watch your fan base for. Granted, not everybody should be flying. Leonardo DiCaprio loves to fly private, and they'd be like, "Save the Earth," like Leonardo.
Right.
But you Ninja Turtle. But anyways, they're like, you know, her platform, she needs to be more responsible, and it's like, well, yeah, of course, and she's pretty responsible, but like, we're not all going to be on planes just because Taylor's on a plane. Like, we don't have the option.
Right, of course.
You're not really increasing the private jet.
Oh, you mean overall? Like yeah, she's not.
They were acting as if her taking a private plane, I mean, all of her fans are going to start doing it. Will be overwhelmed by private
She's not
jets.
influencing people to take. Now, on the flip side of that, it's like, well, if you are sort of painting yourself as somewhat of a socially conscious, like, environmental person, it's like, don't be taking that many.
I don't even know if any of those people are like environmental people.
No, not necessarily environmental.
Social
but like,
justices, yeah.
Socially like, I'm not saying that they're all painting themselves as Al Gore or whatever, but they're all basically like, well, we're socially conscious, we're trying to do good things, but then it is kind of there's something to be made fun of there, where you're the number one private jet flyer is Taylor Swift. Like, that's just kind of funny.
She got places to be.
She really does. More than me. I'm taking my little toy bike all over the place. I don't need to be fucking anywhere.
I'd rather us ban that. If we're being completely honest.
Right.
I'm like, let her get to the concert, but you are in the way.
I guess both take away from traffic. You know what I mean? Both take a car off the road. So, take to the skies.
I really do get confused on what we're supposed to do sometimes. Like, all the rules and regulations. I'm like, I don't even know what we're supposed to eat, drink, what I can wear.
Well, it's tough.
Sometimes I'll post pictures in shoes and people be like, I hope you decide to become a vegan. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't even know what I did.
Right, you didn't even know.
I'm just like, is it because I had these Uggs on? Like, what did I do?
I think, so people have this it's like a leftist idea of it where they say, well, individual impact isn't what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on, like, companies and stuff that perform the bulk of pollution, right? Like, the bulk of pollution is performed by companies. I agree with that completely, like, and I think that the most important thing is definitely to regulate that, but on the flip side of it, I think for our own, like, moral lives, we should be maybe a little bit more conscious of what we do. Not necessarily because it's going to have the biggest impact, but just because I think it makes us feel like we can sleep at night a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do as much as I can do that I know about anyways, but then I feel like you're trying to turn around, it's like we're yelling at, like, the general public to do something.
Right.
And then we're just like, but isn't it so cool that somebody has this hand-stitched beaded gown that took who knows what kind of labor to create.
Right.
Or anything. And then it's like, I can't use straws. Once again, just going to go back to that. I cannot use a straw.
You love straws.
I just need them.
Why don't you use one of those, like, metal straws?
I do.
Yeah, those are
good.
But
I'm about to carry my own straw around. You ever been to a coffee bean?
I have, yeah.
The straw, it's like one of those, it's like magic paper that disintegrates, you know?
I've struggled before. I've been in a coffee bean.
Coffee bean? Yeah, people love coffee bean here.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's I mean, whatever.
Pete's Coffee.
It's fine.
100% of the way.
I've never been there.
It's great. It's great.
I just go to Starbucks like the rest of America.
I like a coffee place where the coffee feels like jet fuel. Like, Pete's Coffee is so... You're basically just drinking crushed up beans with, like, 2 drops of water in it. It's awesome.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's the
I don't
best.
know if I like that.
No, it's good.
Speaking of jet fuel, did you know I read this book called Breast once? And it's about, they did this study. You know that women's breasts, if they test the breast milk in it and stuff, there's like jet engine fuel from where they like absorb stuff in the air.
Whoa.
They're just big sponges. Talk about being an empath.
Are they sure that's not just like one specific lady?
They tested more than one person. I'm sure they weren't like, here's our book on one lady.
Is it
Madam Boob.
Who just loved jet.
Yeah,
she loved
she's always in the sky. It was Taylor Swift.
They tested her boob. It's very funny. No, I didn't know that, but it does make sense. I wish that our bodies were better at dealing with, like,
I wish
the
my body was
modern
better
world.
too.
Yeah, I you know what? I wish my body
What
was
was my
better
topic?
as well.
What did I even ask?
You asked about fetishes, and let's circle back to
that's
that.
right.
So, but then you have taken, like, the cultural aspect of it, where it's like, if women which they have been repressed sexually, culturally, in almost every society, then wouldn't that also lend itself to women developing less fetishes over time? Like, oh, yeah, totally. I'm just asking.
Yeah, you're obviously right in that, but I think the idea of saying that, like, women are just, like, doing whatever men like,
right,
is a little silly too, because, like, maybe before, but I feel like nowadays women are like, let me tell you something real quick. Right. This is what I need you to do, or we ain't doing nothing.
Right.
So I don't think that, like, they just don't have, because it's kind of like belittling to women to be like, you don't even know what's sexy. You don't even know what you like. You have to just do whatever old Footy Magoo over here likes. Like, but that's not the truth.
On the flip side of that, though, in an interesting, not that it directly kind of applies to this, but it is a difficult line to toe because obviously it's very easy to be demeaning to people when you're being like, oh well, you're just doing this because of this. But then in a larger social context, it is interesting to think like, well, if like, you know, patriarchy exists and stuff, it must have some form of influence on like your own personal taste, right? Like,
yeah, the patriarchy is influencing all kinds of things,
right? So
even in men.
So in that case, yeah, definitely. So in that case, it's like, well, it would kind of make sense that people would have like a predilection towards mimicking whatever dominant power structure there is. But you do kind of, then you get into the personal level, and it's like, I wouldn't want to fucking tell anyone that. Like, it does seem rude to say.
It is. It's very strange. And then also because, like, men, you know, you ever heard of, like, forced feminization? That's a big fetish for men. Where they, like, pay...
Oh, you told me about
where they
this.
pay, like, women or drag queens or whatever to, like, dress them up as, like, quote-unquote sissies. And they, like, basically just, like, belittle them because they're like, you're a woman. Like, they treat them bad. And I'm like,
right.
That's very strange. But, I mean, whatever you're into is great. We're not kink-shaming you. But I'm just saying,
sure.
like, it is interesting to be, like, I want to be on the opposite side of the power struggle. Like, I want to be, like, dominated and abused and all this stuff, but, like, in secret. Like,
right.
I want to be a lady in secret. Like, good for you. And I just think, like, that's such a... getting to do that, like, to be the person who's, like, the dominatrix, who's, like, put this lipstick on. What a funny job.
So I don't know if you would like that job, but you would be really good at it.
No, I would hate that job.
You would hate the job, but you would be really good at it. Like, you would be picking the perfect shade. You would be fucking, like, doing, like, you would know exactly what
I'm ready to bully someone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you might...
All these years, I've been waiting.
You might be able to get away with liking that job.
It's just so strange to me to be like,
yeah.
Put these heels on, you little beach. Like, it's just so... Also, I feel like you have to have a really dominating voice.
Yeah, you don't have the voice for it.
And I would just be like, get out of here.
You little scamp.
You're so stupid.
Like, excuse me, could you maybe be a little bit meaner?
I'd be like, yeah.
You little scoundrel.
I'm like, I'm being really mean.
No, so, yeah, I mean, so fetishes, it is interesting. It does seem to be something that is, like, implanted in most people at a young age. And... like, that's why they say foot fetishes, because when you're younger, you're low to the ground. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And
I've
so
also
you're
heard
around
because
feet.
of little penises.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true.
I don't know
I'm
if
sure
that's
someone
true.
say that, and I was like,
Yeah.
But that's like a Freud thing, right? Where, like, everything is a penis.
Yeah, Freud...
Again, a scientist, or is he a psychologist or a scientist?
I believe psychologist.
Which is close enough.
I believe
It's close enough to be making things up.
The first psychoanalyst.
Yeah. I also want to know how psychologists get to just decide what's going on in everyone's brains.
Oh, don't even... Okay, that's gonna get people mad.
I mean, I'm
no,
good for them.
I
have
the same questions sometimes. So I watched this really interesting documentary series called Century of the Self, and it kind of draws a timeline through, like, psychoanalysis all the way to, like, where we are now. Freud's whole thing was trying to integrate people into society. So there's a lot of weird, dark shit that goes into that. Mm-hmm. So if you have proclivities that are like, let's say you're gay, like Freud would be like, no,
weird dark shit.
Yeah, Freud would be like, no. The weird dark shit is Freud would try to, like, train that out of you, basically.
Yeah, he
like,
said you're a goat.
Yeah, you are actually goat. And it's like, no, I want cheese. He tries to get you to fuck a goat to make you straight.
He's like, you're not thin boy. Excuse me?
It's the scientist from before. It was
the same one.
The
whole time. I knew it.
No, but, like, so, it is this, like, weird thing where, so psychoanalysis, like, one-on-one, has been proven to be effective. Like, it does make people feel better.
That's what I was just about to say. I think that I think a really good psychologist or a really good psychiatrist or any of those things is very individual with the person.
Yes.
I think blanketing people's brains is a crazy concept. I guess you have to do it when you start off. Like, learning anything, you have to kind of, like, blanket, like, all things work like this, but...
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, I don't think you can say, like... I mean, I don't know. But I'm probably wrong, which is the point of me saying this.
Somebody will tell me. That's the point of the whole podcast.
But, like, I'm just saying, like, I think that being, like, this is... If you have ADHD, it looks like this in everyone. Like, it's a very...
Right.
I think you can, like, definitely... There are probably, like, similarities, but everyone that has ADHD is a completely different person. Like, they're not the same, and I think a really good psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist or whatever can, like, individualize, like, here's the medical part, and then here's how it's individualized to you.
See, that's why I think it's so effective, is because it is taking it on a one-on-one basis, and you do kind of get to treat people not like their symptoms, but like their people. But going back to what you said, it is also this like medical practice that, like, you know, there's many newer medical practices, but it is one of those things where there is a lot of trial and error, and there is a lot of guesswork involved in it on the therapist side, so you do really need, like, a good therapist. I've had...
Like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Exactly, like, I wish I had Gwyneth, dude. I have had 4 different... Like, I've tried to go to a therapist 4 different times. All of them have sucked in their own way.
Yeah, I've been through multiple therapists too, bad. Where I'm like, this is not going to work for me.
And that's not like to say other people it won't work for them, but for me, by the 4th one, I was like, it's going to be a while before I can go for a 5th. It's going to be... Because
it's even emotionally draining.
Because getting to those 4, I had to go on so many phone calls, and like there was a vetting process for those 4. And I had to bike to all of their places. You had to run me off the road every time.
You were sweating when you got there. It was probably horrible for you.
They're like, okay, if the first problem is you're always out of breath. Yeah. So we're going to have to deal with that first. But yeah, it was just like, it's a nightmare. But then you see people find good therapists and they get better, and it's like, that's awesome.
Yeah, a good therapist is like great. It's just very hard to get there. And I think it's because there's a group of like people that are really passionate about what they do and everything. And then there's a group of people who are just like, take this medicine, take this medicine, take this medicine. Which, medicine's great. I take an antidepressant.
Right.
And it like changed my life. But I'm just saying, like, in general, I think that like, you definitely have to like evaluate if that's the right thing for the person. Me as a doctor, that's what I think.
Also, it's very, and you are... And
I've seen every episode of Grey's Anatomy. I'm a doctor.
A
surgeon, actually.
Well, it is one of those things where medicine obviously is very good, but it's hard to get into the gray area conversations that I think are necessary when it comes to those sorts of things, which are, like, medication is a completely necessary, like, you know, step for certain people. But I think that therapy is a little bit limited in gauging environmental causes of depression and anxiety and things that seem to be on the rise lately. Because when you're meeting someone in a clinical setting, they're not really seeing your life. They're not really seeing what you're doing. Yeah. A lot of the times, and this is where I'm like, I don't really know about certain therapists. A lot of times they're not even asking. They're not even like really getting into the depths of, are you doing, like, the basic necessities for your brain to be healthy?
Right. Also, like, what is your job like? Where do you live? What kind of neighborhood? Like, all those things are very impactful. And, yeah, I just think, this is kind of sad now.
No, it's fine. I was just listening to an old... Do you ever listen to Doug Stanhope?
Yeah.
He had this old joke about Adderall that's so good. Obviously, it's like not accurate, but it's basically about like they'll legalize any drug that makes you better at working.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's like such an interesting way to think about it, because I know friends who've gone on ADD medication and stuff. Anti-ADD medication, but I guess it kind of is. It's anti-ADD.
Yeah. That's what it is.
But and it changes their lives, and they're like much better for it. But it is funny to think of like, well, if it makes you better at working, they're immediately going to be like, green stamp, push it through, let's go.
Yeah,
get these
anything
people in
for
the
capitalism.
Office. Yeah, anything for capitalism.
It's labor. It's like when we have Labor Day off, and they're like, but we're going to leave the stores open longer. It's like, what the fuck?
So. My question. Did we cover your question actually?
Yeah, I think so. I have nothing else to say about fetishes that I can think of in the moment.
So my question: do you know about food neutrality?
Food neutrality?
Food neutrality?
Like when you're neutral about food?
Well, it's much deeper than that. So
is that a fetish?
So the LA school department. I don't know the exact, but they retweeted or put on Instagram. It created like a big stir among this concept and idea. A lot of people on right-wing news media picked it up and like drug it through the mud, and a lot of people on left-wing media were saying, well, the right-wing media is kind of like going overboard with their assessment of this. So I'll try to read you a definition of food neutrality. This is there's two different websites about this. One of them is a little bit on the more I don't really know about it side.
One was Wikipedia.
Yeah, one was Wikipedia. So
I love Wikipedia.
These are the bullet points of food neutrality. First bullet point: all food has the same moral value.
Okay.
Second bullet point: no food is valued over another.
Okay.
Third bullet point. No foods are inherently good, bad, healthy, or unhealthy.
I see no problem with this so far.
All judgment from food is removed.
Yeah, that sounds fine. What's wrong with that?
So by using a food-neutral approach, we give ourselves permission to eat foods that we enjoy without having to feel guilt or shame.
Yeah, I'm into this. Because I think the number one thing that causes people to, like, over-exercise, under-eat, overeat is the feeling of shame that comes along when you make a mistake with food. Because food, as someone who's just really learning about food, I'm taking all these classes and courses, it's very confusing. Like metabolism, I was wrong about how metabolism worked for years. Like, I thought lowering your caloric intake made your metabolism higher and better, but it just lowers it. And then you have to actually be eating to keep your metabolism high while you're doing all these things. So that to me sounds fun. People don't like that, or they do like it?
So that's the most tame definition. The issue that most people had, and this is kind of what I want to talk to you about, is, so this is on a separate website. This is a tenet of food neutrality. There is no such thing as an unhealthy food. So what it basically means is every single food provides energy that the body needs to stay alive and provides micronutrients that the body needs to maintain its cells and vital organs.
Sure, but some are better than others, obviously.
That is not food neutrality.
Well, why? Because food, that to me sounds like obviously I can go and enjoy hot Cheetos and a Coke as we watch the sunset, and that's a great little time, and I shouldn't feel bad about it. But I obviously can't eat hot Cheetos every single day of my life.
So on the website that
I've tried.
So on the two, and this is the issue with the internet and clickbait on both sides, is it feels as though one side, like, I feel like the core of that idea, which is basically like moralizing food rather than looking at it in its nutritional sense and making decisions based on nutrition, is actually a good thing, because putting like morality on food is like, I've had eating disorders for like a big chunk of my life, and a big part of that eating disorder, and it was an issue for me because everybody would always be like, you're so healthy, and that would make me feel really good. So I would bring like bags of lettuce to school and eat like bags of lettuce, and people would be like, oh, you're so healthy. I'm like, no, I'm destroying my brain, because
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you know that competitive eaters will eat tons of iceberg lettuce to stretch their stomachs
Make
out?
them bigger, yeah.
I watched that in MTV. My true life as a competitive eater.
Our stomachs have a volume sensor, but not a calorie sensor.
Yeah, that's why restaurants will serve you iceberg lettuce at the beginning, so you can eat more of your meal.
Interesting.
Little fakers. Yeah, anyways, continue with your eating disorder.
So, what I found is you can maintain an eating disorder up to the point when things start to change in your life, and then I think most people get to this tipping point where they either go away from it or they go deeper into it, and I went deeper into it. So I started doing worse at track. I was like competitive in track in high school and college, and then I started performing worse. And so my way of dealing with performing worse was to get even more restrictive with my diet, which, like you said, with metabolism is obviously the exact opposite thing you want to do. But that's why it was a disorder and not a healthy relationship with food, because I wasn't thinking of it in terms of like what is actually functionally the best thing for my body. I was thinking in terms of moral value. So when I read that part, I'm like, this is awesome. But then it gets into the healthy and unhealthy, and no food is inherently unhealthy, and it's like a fried cheese is unhealthy.
Yeah, but I think what they're actually saying there is like, if you tell yourself you can never have an Oreo or things that are quote-unquote bad foods, then you're going to end up developing some kind of disorder around that.
I agree
because
with
that's
you.
someone like me. Like it took me a long time. I've never been diagnosed with eating disorder, but I like for sure think I had binge eating. But I definitely grew up in the time period where it was like so cool to make fun of like anorexia. Like none of us knew what the word meant. We would be like, you're bulimic. All the tabloids were like, this celebrity's bulimic. This. I made a joke in my high school yearbook about like one of my favorite celebrities, and it's like it was Paris Hilton, who I love. And my yearbook quote, I thought that I was like, I'd watched all these roasts, and I was like, oh, when you like someone, you make fun of like their thing, and then it becomes better. And she wasn't even bulimic, but I was like, I love Paris Hilton because she's bulimic, and that's hot. And I was like, aren't I so smart? I used her tagline, and I made a joke. Everybody laughed. And then now looking back at that, I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know who was in my class. And the adult published that in our yearbook.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, now looking back, knowing about, like, I had no idea what eating disorder even was. I just knew that was like a trick, like not a trigger word, like a hot take in like all of comedy. And I was like, I want to do that.
Right.
And I thought that was how you like showed someone you liked them, is like taking back their thing the tabloid said about them. And so and then I was like, now I'm like, I don't even know who that like affected in my class, like who saw that and was like, not that like that comment would give someone disorder, but it wouldn't feel any better.
Well, go easy on yourself in that regard, because I think it was just, I mean, people are products of their times and environment, and if you don't have the information about something, I think it's wrong to judge yourself or others based on like past discretions that were made in a time when those discretions were seen by culture as a whole as being more acceptable.
Yeah, and it's also like about, I always think when people like are canceling everyone, I'm like, it's about a pattern. If someone has made a mistake over and over and over and has the same pattern, that's not a mistake. That's who they are. If someone has done something bad and they've changed that and you've never seen it again, then that's obviously a mistake that they've learned from. We should move on from it.
Totally.
But my point of that was like, I was like so gung-ho. I made that one joke. It's not like I have 100 of them. I probably made like, but I definitely have made more jokes about like people being anorexic or this and that throughout that time period, because I was like, that's what everybody's talking about. Like, that's what's funny, and like no one cares if people are skinny, because I didn't think being skinny was like negative. I thought being fat was like, that's the thing people hated, and if you're making fun of skinny people was okay.
And that's the core. So,
but it took me forever to realize that I had like binging. So like I would cut calories so much, and then I would come home and eat the craziest amount of food.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I have like just in the past couple of years reached my little point where I was like, I could change this because it's like not working. And you don't ever think that's bad because you're just like, oh, I'm just hungry from not eating. Like it took me so long to be like, oh, like I'm eating bad because I'm like, you're not eating bad. You're just like overweight. It was very confusing. Like the whole weight and everything was very confusing to me. Even trying to like describe it is very confusing because I'm just like, I knew that you could make fun of skinny people and that being fat was bad, and people treat fat people really strange. Like they don't want to sit by them on bus. It's very weird, and they make a lot of comments about it. But then I was like, but you know, I don't not eat or I don't throw up, so obviously I don't have an eating disorder. That's the only two I thought there were.
Right.
I didn't even know there was a binge eating disorder until I met someone that had it, and I was like, oh my god, like.
So what was the tipping point? It was the meeting the person. Did you think that was kind of the?
It was just I had just met more and more people throughout my life that had like eating disorders, and I had like started talking to them, and I was like, oh, this is way different than in just being skinny and like all the jokes made it sound, you know. And I was like, and maybe it's ignorant to just find that out like super late in life, like whatever I was in college or whatever. But it's like it was that, and then it was just like I was just like, I'm gonna just. Instead of being confused, because I'm someone who if something's really confusing, I'm like, I can't do that.
Sure.
So I was like, instead of being...
I've seen you in the gym.
Instead of being... Because it's embarrassing to me. And so instead of being embarrassed about not knowing about health and nutrition, I'm just going to like take all these classes. And I found that lady, that Natasha Ocean, that I loved.
Oh, yeah.
She breaks everything with science. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, everything you're telling me, it makes sense. And it changed the way that I ate, and I feel better. Like, I'm eating things that are like, making me feel fuller throughout the day. Like I understand when people say processed foods, I had no idea what that even meant.
But that's why when I read this, so I think a lot of times in the modern culture of like clickbait, and you need attention and you need people to get like angry at your thing for it to get any traction, I feel like people have this natural kind of magnetism towards, you can't just share good, positive information anymore. You need some sort of a inflammatory hook to get people in, because everything you just said, especially when it comes to like judging yourself and moralizing food, is completely correct. And it's like teaching kids to moralize food, especially in the culture where we live, where access to healthy food is so low, and access to exercise is so low. Like kids in schools are certainly not given even close to the amount of movement and activity that they need. Not even close. But to say stuff like there's no such thing as healthy food and unhealthy food, that's where you get into this place of, okay, you're trying to get people upset about this. You know what you're doing. You know that people are going to read this and go, well, but to someone like me, where I don't really give a shit about clickbait, like I do like just reading information, like you seem to with the woman on YouTube, like her whole thing is just information, here's the science, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you didn't need to put this in, and the messaging here is so good up until the point where you go into kind of like territory of like, well, there's no such thing as healthy and unhealthy food, and all food is actually exactly the same, and it's like, obviously that's not true.
I think they're just saying that truly because when you start to say this is good and this is bad, it makes you start you're just back in that place of overthinking food again. Whereas like instead, what they should have said, I think, is like, all foods are food, and you can eat whatever foods you want, but you need to be like maybe 80% of the time choosing better options, and 20% of the time choose what you want.
I don't know if so. Here's my thing about it, and I could be wrong here. There are certain quote unquote foods where, in my mind, I'm like, is this a food really? Like when you get into super unhealthy territory, when you're getting into like the battered and deep fried food, which
those are experiences.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to call certain quote unquote foods experiences.
Like you shouldn't eat fried butter every day, but you should try it.
There's an experience. You should experience. It's not even really eating. You're having a gastric experience of fried butter. It's not really, because like saying all food is normal, like you said, processed and unprocessed is such an important thing for kids to learn. And if you're not teaching them that, which hopefully they are, see, because this shit is also so watered down. One of the reasons why I want to bring this up is because it's only come to public light in such an inflammatory context that I think having like an actual conversation about it is a nice thing. And breaking it down in a real way is a really nice thing, because so much of the coverage of this has just been, look at these like stupid idiots saying that all food is this is why we're all so fat and all blah blah blah. And it's like, first of all,
someone's so fat writing that comment too.
A lot of the times, yeah. And also, the reason why is not because of ideas like this. The reason why is because of, again, a bigger social issue, which is the fact that unhealthy food is so much cheaper to produce, and companies are producing it at such a high level. But these motherfuckers aren't even really getting mad at them. They're not getting mad at big companies. They're not getting mad at school lunches that are being provided to kids. Or the amount
people are paid to even afford better food.
100%. Like, what they're getting mad at is just these people who have this, like, certainly fringe idea about food that not every piece of should be taken completely seriously. But I think that the main issue is, like, we live in a fucking culture that pushes people into eating disorders and then blames them for having them. And it's so fucked up.
Yeah. But I do think that, like, just going back to that one sentence and the way it's written, I think that a lot of that has to do with
the wording.
As someone who was overweight, like, I know that if I heard there are good foods and bad foods, you would want to never participate in the bad food, and that kind of cuts you off from a lot of, it kind of makes you feel like less valuable, because I know, like,
right,
like you could go and have 4 or 5 In-N-Out burgers and it really wouldn't affect your body. It wouldn't affect either of our bodies at all, actually, because it's one meal. But
it would affect me that night, bro.
You know what I mean? But like in general, like I would feel morally bad because I would not participate in that, and then I'd be with this group of people that were, and then I would feel bad the whole time. So I think that's trying to, like, because there is this concept that if you're like overweight, you're like less valuable. You're like not as good. You're not as healthy. You're not as productive, or you're lazy, or you smell bad, or whatever it is. You know, like
the moral. I think putting any moral value on it is necessary. It is unnecessary, and we shouldn't be putting any moral value or judgment on it. But I think that you do get stuck in the weeds when you, like, make that complete consent. Like, we certainly should not be putting a moral judgment, but there does need to be, like, an objective sort of, are you, not talking about, like, society or whatever, but is what you're doing healthy or unhealthy? Not good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. Is this, and let's not even, like, be vague with healthy or unhealthy. Is this contributing to you feeling as energetic as possible? And does it contribute to as, like, high a quality of life long time that you can achieve? And those are the questions to ask. Now, it's not like...
But that question gets way deeper when you're overweight, because then you have to get into, like, well, this is what I can afford. This is what makes me feel good. Because a lot of times when you're really overweight, like, that's like me. Like, I never go swimming. Never been swimming in my whole life. Like, and it's just one of those things where it's like you're really restricting your time out in the world because of weight. And then the only thing that makes you feel better sometimes is food. Or some people also, they're overweight because it's a defense mechanism from being like there are a lot of things.
I read something about that was so interesting, where they were looking at prison guards, and like the prison guards have some of the highest rates of obesity of any job, and they were like, well, that doesn't really make sense because it's no less active, but it's because prison guards are under so much mental stress and are so afraid that they make up for it physiologically by because like to a lot of people, weight is safety.
Yeah, so a lot of people that are molested will put on weight, or they'll lose weight to either try to disappear or to become big enough to, like, protect yourself.
It's so fucked up, though, that, like, and we're in a society where not only are we given all this bad food, like I mentioned before, but, like, but then to have people who are overweight and look at them and be like, oh, look at this lazy.
Yeah.
It's like, God,
weight is never just about what you eat. In my experience, weight is never just about the food you're eating. Obviously, like, yes, science-wise it is. But I'm saying, like, the mental... It has to do with something else. Always.
Almost all addiction,
always, yeah. I mean, even just, like, culture. Like, in the South, we're just eating different things than people here. Right. Or vice versa. And that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. It's just, like, also people in the South tend to work a lot more physically demanding jobs on farms. Right. And, I mean, I knew people that would eat crazy food, deep-fried everything, but they were, like, jacked because all they were doing was like throwing fucking hay bales over fences.
That don't last long though. I've worked so many. I worked these factory jobs up in Pacoima, which is part of the valley. Just to let you know, Pacoima, part of the valley.
To let you guys know, I know.
Deep Sun Valley area. And there were dudes.
Not the Moon Valley.
It was the hardest physical job I've ever done. And dudes there would still manage to be, because the young guys there were all, like you said, like jacked. But then, like 40, 50-year-olds, when that stuff stops processing quite so much, it would just be like, you could almost see on a timeline, like these guys' bodies with how physically demanding their jobs are. But I've worked enough physical jobs where I can completely, like, empathize with the fact that if you work, like, a dog shit job, and you have to support yourself and probably your family, but you hate it, and it's also putting your body through all this. It's like, yeah, you're gonna eat whatever food makes you happy. Yeah. That's just what, like...
Food's one of the quickest ways, other than drugs, to get serotonin and all that stuff going.
So yeah, having a little more empathy. I think that's, like... I'm glad I brought this up, because this is kind of the conversation I want to have around it, where it's like, you don't have to look at this and be like, look at these stupid people indoctrinating our kids, but you can kind of break it down and be like, well, here's the good things about it, here's the bad things about it.
Yeah, that's kind of... and I mean, what we know about diet and culture is always changing, just like I said, from whenever even we were younger and it was like so in vogue to like make fun of skinny people.
I mean, that's why I had that bad experience with it, because I was just indoctrinated with this idea that like your value is completely tied up with your physical being.
Yeah, and that and then that changed, and now we're like, oh wait, and then we have like body positivity movements. Like that's always going to be changing. So like everyone's understanding of food is also changing because the world around it is changing. Right. So like that has to be like, you have to have conversations like that, because if not, you're just like in a bubble of like, this is right and this is wrong.
This frustrates me so much too, because I go to the gym pretty much every day. I love the gym. I've always loved the gym. My dad took me to the gym when I was like 12. I'm svelte. I have tight skin. No, but
I have such a fear of that.
But so I've always been and there's no one who's more against body positivity than people who go to the gym all the time. Like, that is I'm not saying, I shouldn't even say people go to the gym all the time. Like, gym rat dudes, and a lot of gym rat women, like, old school, they hate the body positivity movement.
And they'll tell you with a mouthful of broccoli and rice.
Oh, yeah. They'll tell you with a fucking protein shake coming out of their nose.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hate... But I wish I could just explain to them, it's like, you're only seeing the silliest parts of this because that's the kind of news cycle you're on.
Also,
that's
you're the reason for the movement. So many people don't want to go to the gym to even try to better themselves. Because that's me. Because it is so uncomfortable to be in a room with people that are like, look, and it's like, stop looking over here.
Let me go one step further.
Look in the mirror, Adonis.
Let me go one step further. The body positivity movement is for them. And that's not to say that if you want like a big jacked body, you shouldn't have it. It's like, that is completely up to you. Have whatever body you want, whatever body you want to create. It's like, that is on you completely. But if I feel my body is so much better, like aesthetically, physically, all that from the time that I had my like eating disorder shit. And a lot of people I know who go to the gym all the time, they are in this prison of moralizing food, where it's like, not only would you be happier, that's a given, you would see better results if you didn't have this unhealthy connection to eating. Now, when you get to like the high levels of bodybuilding and stuff, those people kind of by necessity have to have an unhealthy connection to eating.
But that's a hobby. That's something you do very short term, just to be very clear.
Yeah, that's a life. No, that is a life. Like bodybuilding, like that is a fucking entire life. It's nuts.
That is true. Like, that is, like, I think people think that, like, oh, to look like this person, I have to eat that way. But it's, like, a lot of times the things you're seeing are people that are doing, like, that is their hobby, and they're not eating like that all the time. It's, like, it's for specific reasons.
Right. And they look like that for, and, like, when you see the pictures of them and stuff, they look like that for 30 minutes.
Also, talk about a silly thing.
Yeah, it's silly.
But the amount of times working in cosmetic retail that I've had to body paint people in, like, terrifyingly dark shades.
You've contributed.
How has that not been?
You've contributed to Black Body.
That's what I'm like. First of all, I say, listen. I always say, ma'am, sir, this is not the correct color, but you do whatever you want to do.
Right.
I don't know. This is where the foundations are, and you find them. But like the amount of people that want like. What is that? Why do you need to be that tan to show your body off?
I think like every hobby obviously is silly in its own way. We all have our little silly things, but that one is particularly like no, I wouldn't even say particularly silly, but that aspect of bodybuilding where they literally paint their bodies into these like. Well, because it's like aesthetics. So like when light hits you, it doesn't look good to you, but for like a judge, like a judge or somebody who's like taking a picture or whatever, the way light hits the like darker the shade, the more the muscle striations.
Yeah, that's contouring and highlighting. I know all about that, but you can achieve that same thing without painting your body a different human being shade.
And you need to tell them that.
I mean, you can't. Because it's been going on for so long.
Right.
I'm surprised someone's ever brought this up. I'm sure someone has been like, we gotta stop doing that.
Yeah.
But it's like so weird. It doesn't even look like it's so dark, the shade.
Yeah.
On like someone who should not be wearing that shade ever.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, why don't you just contour your ab area or like, or put some shine on. You can get the same effect different ways.
Interesting.
It's just so weird to be like, we need to be like 50 shades darker. I mean, it is so dark.
Right.
And I've never seen a picture where I'm like, that looks great.
Well, but it's not for,
you look killer.
They're not doing it for you.
They're not.
They're
but
doing
I still
it
saw
for
the picture, therefore I have an opinion.
Fair enough.
This one's a little rated R, but I think it goes with fetishes pretty well.
Sure.
So, another very deep dive into Reddit led me here. I really should stop getting on Reddit. But,
I mean, we need it for the podcast.
Do you think that it is... This actually comes from when I was on Good For You, when you had that robot and I had to carry it around a lot for like when I was her assistant. And people all the time, like it was a sex robot, and people were like, I remember this one man wrote a comment and he wrote, fucking a robot is gay because it's not a woman.
Yes.
And I was like, interesting take. So then I just went to the internet. And I was thinking about like topics stuff that came up, and I was like, I'm gonna look on the internet and see if anybody else has these opinions. And apparently there's a big divide on what is more manly, fucking anything or only fucking women.
What is more manly? Fucking any... So does anything include other men?
It includes, men,
anything.
Women, dolls, pocket rockets, I don't know what else people fuck.
Interesting.
And I'm like, there is some concept of... And when I saw that, I was like, this is so stupid. But then I was like, wait a minute, let me start thinking about it for just the sake of it.
No, that's really fun...
I think, more manly, quote unquote, to fuck anything. Because when I think about like Romans, Greeks...
the manliest man.
You know what I mean? Like they were fucking people just to show that they were dominant over them. Like they were just fucking anything.
Right. When I think of manly people, I think of Greeks.
Well, like the 300, whatever they were.
Oh, Spartans.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like those people were very
Spartans were fucking each other. That is true.
All kinds of people. There was an entire gay army in Sparta. I was like, what the fuck? But
we should bring that back.
It was
We should bring back gay army.
I think it'd be a little different now.
There'd be a lot of countries that would really work on. You know what I mean?
Sweden.
I mean, American. No. Like American imperialism obviously is bad, but if you're pushing it with gay army, I might get on board.
It's like me. I was like, it does sound like that's more manly now that I think about it.
Gay army.
Yes, gay army, sure, but I mean the fucking anything.
Fuck anything.
Because I was like, the robot. It's a lady robot.
So this is an
also
interesting.
No one's fucking it. Just to be clear.
So this was a piece of locker room talk I had in high school with a friend of mine, Xavier, and Xavier
Drag him, call him out.
Xavier said, well, I never said his last name, but this isn't a bad thing. Xavier said, I never jack off. Jacking off is gay. Why don't you just have a girl do it? That was Xavier's statement, and it stuck with me forever.
I heard someone say that. They were like, I don't jack off, I'm married. And I was like, she hates you, let me tell you right now.
I don't jack off. Yeah, I don't jack off because it's gay. But on your point, jacking off is actually
jacking off is really
straight.
triggering me. I've never heard that in years.
Oh, you don't like... What should I say?
Masturbation.
No.
Masturbation. I mean, I agree with Xavier. I'm not big into the masturbation.
Masturbation is something where you sprawl out on the sheets. That's how Gwyneth Paltrow was saying. Exactly. You have rose petals around you. There's a pompous... Jacking off is what guys do. 90% of male self-pleasure is jacking off. You run into a bathroom, you have 3 minutes, you get in there under 2. You run into a bathroom, you get it over with, use whatever hand soap is available to you.
Oh my god, lotion. People have lotion by their bed.
Oh yeah.
Can't send them to jail.
I have lotion by my bed.
Sick. Yeah, First of all, just buy lube.
I know, I have lube too.
By your bed?
But I don't want to waste the lube. See, this is because I'm cheap. I don't want to waste the lube because that's for my girlfriend. So I use the lotion and I save the lube.
For some reason, brands send me so many sex toys and lubes and things.
Interesting.
And I'm like, there's nothing about me that is saying that I am doing anything with these. And they said, here, have some more.
Your hair says different.
Yeah, it does.
Your hair
says very clear hair,
different.
But it's a disguise.
Sure, it's a disguise. So I would say, I think what you're doing is you're attaching virility to straightness, which is something that a lot of people do.
What do you have, a word of the day calendar?
Virility, virile, is like horniness, basically.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Well, you're welcome. So, I don't know if that's... The only issue I would have is I don't think that's accurate. I think that, straightness and virility are not necessarily... Because I think, if I'm thinking of the straightest guys I know, they barely even fuck women. They're playing Call of Duty too much. Yeah, those are the straightest guys I know. They're playing Call of Duty. They're watching old Dave Attell clips, right? They're fucking in their own lane. The OG Dave Attell. They're in their lane. Those are straight guys. That's the people. Those are the guys I look at and I'm like, maybe I am on the spectrum. I don't know.
Everyone's on the spectrum.
No, I know. But I'm saying I look at them and I'm aware of it.
I'm in the middle of the spectrum now.
Right.
I've moved.
I've my fucking pin has fucking slammed to the other side. So I would say, guy who is I only fuck women is the straighter of the two. Because if you're that into women where you can't even jerk off, you need to fuck a woman. A, you have mental problems, and B, you're very straight.
But I didn't say the straightest. I said the manliest.
I would say manliest.
That's different.
Too. I would go.
See, I think that's different. I feel like. Granted, this is not what I think people are doing. Just to be clear.
No,
but in this fanny situation,
hey, we're having a little fun.
We're having a little fun. Not me. I'm here for a long time, not a good time. I do think that there is something inherently manly about I'm gonna fuck anything because I'm the man.
Whatever.
I'm the man.
Yeah. I agree with you. No, there is something about that where it's what is that?
Because if you're the man,
femboy, whatever.
If you're the man, yeah, you see anyone and you're like, that's my bitch, that's my bitch,
girl,
that's
femboy,
my bitch. It doesn't matter.
A dominance thing.
Sure. That is, but that could also be my skewed version of masculinity.
I think it might be because I think it's also taking into account the idea that fucking getting that fucking is manly and getting fucked isn't.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I mean?
That's just the society says that, which is incorrect. But in the sense of this, we need to use.
We're using societal standards, in which case that you pose a very interesting, because there have been famous people throughout history who are considered incredibly manly, who then you look back and it's they just couldn't stop fucking men or women. They were just fucking everybody. Yeah. Marlon Brando.
There are famous people today in this world right now that are
you and
I
both know of that we can't.
Yeah, that are hooking up with men just because they're I've had so many women.
I'm bored. Yeah, I'm
and it's
done
you're
with it.
Excuse me. I'm a little dehumanizing, but still.
Sure.
But there's something on the flip side that there's also something very cartoonish about that kind of masculinity where you're like, I
Right.
fuck it. It's like, at some point that you have to stop doing that. Like, it's fun for a taste, not for a swallow. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you're like, this cannot be the same.
If I can't say jacking off, you can't use that expression anymore.
I've already said it now. But it's one of the, first of all, use jacking off more. I've never heard it so much in my life, so continue, I guess.
That's my favorite.
But it's like one of those things where like, people that do that like every time they start to be like intimate or something, it's like, this is getting a little weird. Like, do you know who you are, or is this like this character
Right.
you're putting on of like this like dominant character is like a little cartoonish at some point.
It is cartoonish. No, I mean, I think, and there's been archetypes of that in
Johnny Bravo.
Exactly, literally, like
Johnny Bravo. That cartoon. If we watched that today, Jesus Christ!
Oh God!
Just
yeah.
harassing women left
doing
and
nothing,
right.
But he was never a protagonist that kids looked up to. I'll say that much.
Mm-mm.
Like I was a child watching Johnny Bravo, and I was never like, I want to be like Johnny Bravo. So that cartoon was sort of well made in a way.
It was like a joke.
Yeah, it's clearly like, oh, this is a buffoon. This is a buffoonish character. But yeah, those characters have existed throughout history, and it's like, I think people do sort of like the comfort of like you know exactly what they want, and it's to fuck.
Yeah, because they can't stop telling you about it.
They can't stop saying it. No, that is okay. You've maybe brought me over to your side a little bit. Maybe that is the manlier thing, is to like. Fuck
They're the guys that call everything a pussy, no matter what it is. They're like, "You're pussy, you're pussy." You're like, "What?"
I'm unaware of this kind of guy.
This is the thing. So there's this whole thing. This might be more of a gay thing, but there's this whole thing.
Where
people are
calling your mouth an asshole a pussy is a gay thing?
Well, everyone does it. Like, apparently, like, it's a thing now. People are just calling everything a pussy. Rap song, everything's a pussy.
Sure.
And they're not even talking about that. And I'm just like, okay. And then now there's a big gay fight on whether people should be doing that or not. People are like, how dare you say that? That's stereotypes. And other people are like, we think it's hot. So it's just like, it's like, worry about your own fucking bedroom.
That's not worry. Yeah, that's one of the things where it's like,
So
I am
funny, though.
all for like conversation, but what is happening where we're being like, oh, we need to bring societal knowledge into the bed? It's like,
you know what's not sexy?
go ahead.
Societal knowledge.
Societal knowledge. I've dated some of the like smartest, most socially conscious women of all, like so much smarter than me, so much more socially conscious than me. Congresswomen, senators, fucking
Madam President,
Madam Presidents, the Queen of England. And it's like, you don't need to take that. If you like getting fucking, hit consensually, that's fine.
Yeah,
do that.
Why are you worried about what other people are doing
Why are you
consensually?
worried?
What is this issue that we have to make it? It's like a Twitter war. Not Twitter, TikTok. What's the new one? TikTok. It's a TikTok war. And I'm just like, this is so funny. The thousands of videos of people being like, don't you ever call this a pussy. And it's like, is this what we're doing with our time?
De-social media your brain. That's right.
Truly.
De-social media your brain. That's right.
But I wonder when that's going to be like the next trend. Like Daddy really kicked off. So I'm wondering when that's going to be the next thing.
It's exciting. These are exciting times.
Exciting times, everyone's just hoeing it up.
Is there anything you would like to leave our...
No, I think this was great. I think ending on...
Yeah, that's great.
Ending on
that
this
was wonderful.
Key. Yeah, this was super fun. This was number 2. So after that is number 3.
Yes.
And then who knows what happens after that.
Who knows? We have no idea. That's up to you.
Yeah, thanks for listening to this.